Why are Americans so willing to give over their freedoms at the slightest, even if a minor terrorist incident? Why do we see Americans craving security over freedom? Well, the reason I think that's true is because that's the way Americans have been taught, especially in our public schools. Two situations that happened recently really highlight this. One was actually in Charlottesville, Virginia, the home of Thomas Jefferson, the great free speech advocate, where an 8-page newspaper, ironically called The Revolution, was scrapped because of an article which criticized PE for student athletes. Why? Because the school administration thought it might upset PE teachers. Another situation dealt with two teachers who were put on administrative leave because they did some handouts to students and referred them to a website that told them what to do if they were pulled over by the police. In other words, how to exercise their Fourth Amendment rights. These two situations barely scratch the surface of what we see happening in our public schools. And I hear again routinely from teachers and students that they feel sometimes like they're living in quasi-prison environments with zero tolerance policies where kids are actually tossed out of school for taking Alka-Seltzer, girls for taking Midol, to drug-sniffing dogs walking the hallways, to security guards, to scanners, and all kinds of strange things that when I was a young kid in schools, you never saw any of that. I never saw policemen in schools when I was a child. Things may have changed, but they haven't changed that much. All of this is highlighted in Kevin Solling's award-winning film, War on the Kids, which I highly recommend. Solling's documentary details how bad the schools have really got and does it in a visual way with a lot of good interviews. And again, for parents and students and teachers and for school officials, this is something you should watch so we can start teaching something very valuable in our schools, which is freedom, especially the freedom of speech. There was a time when there would have been no question about someone writing an article in a school newspaper criticizing a PE program. I mean, come on. Isn't that what we want to teach our kids? I mean, why wouldn't school officials be advocating free speech? Why wouldn't they be advocating that the students should criticize them if they're doing something wrong? We all, as authority figures, should be open to criticism, especially in a state institution, which is what public schools are. That's where the Constitution is at play. We are supposedly a freedom-loving people. If we love freedom, if we really love freedom, our teachers are going to be preaching it. They're going to be teaching the Bill of Rights. They're going to be encouraging students to stand up for their freedoms. Then they're going to be encouraging parents to get involved in teaching about freedoms and all exercising freedoms in the schools. There are many people who say the Bill of Rights is on life support. I definitely believe that our First Amendment's on life support. And why is that true? Well, number one, the schools have stopped making our schools an environment of free speech and freedoms. Second, the average American knows little about their First Amendment freedoms and exercising them. And I really, put it very bluntly, thank God for people that get out there and stand up in the schools and exercise their freedoms. I thank God for those teachers that will hand out flyers on how you can protect your Fourth Amendment rights, and those students that write articles, even if it's taken out of the newspaper and their newspaper is censored for standing up for their freedoms. But there's only one way that we're going to keep our freedoms in this country today, and we're going to have to start standing up and fighting for them. And I think probably the first place is where we're going to have to fight for them is in the schools, because we don't want a generation of students taught that they have no freedoms. If not, then freedom is going the way of the graveyard.